All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Rebbe.
Tomorrow's daf is daf Chavtes, which we got up to, so we're one blot ahead. Making our way to try and get two blot ahead by Friday, Mitzvah Shem, and then we will not fall behind. No, because Sunday's Tisha B'Av, so we can't learn Sunday. No,
Right, on Sunday we do two.
All right.
No Torah Shabbat.
Only Chatzos. The Chatzos is on Erev Tisha B'Av, not to learn. So, anyways, fine. All right. So, yeah.
I'm still hoping to get a bris. No, that's
All right. So,
charge.
all right, so Anaya Parak, Anaya Mishnah. Elu Naras Sheyesh Lahen Kinas. So very important Rashis today, right? So we start off with Naras are discussing Nara. Nara is now normally with a woman. The way it works is that from birth until the age of 12, she's a Katana. A Nara is the age from 12 to 12 and a half, and then 12 and a half older is a Bogeres.
Assuming there's Shtei Sarah.
So, right, so she has to have Shtei Saras, At Shis Gaber, as Rashi points out, and that's 6 months. The 6 months from 12 to 12 and a half. So, Elu Naras Sheyesh Lahem Kinas. So these are Naras. Now, the Torah does specify that a woman who is ma'anes, right? She is violated, right? Which we refer to as rape, right? She's violated. So the perpetrator has to go ahead and pay a knas, and if the father wants, he has to go ahead and marry her, and he can't divorce her. So, but there's a penalty, a 50 shekalim penalty. We'll soon see how that comes from. Knas. If one is ba, let's say he violates a 12-year-old mamzeres. Now she came from some sort of illicit union, right? And she was a mamzeres or an asina, or during the days of Yeshua, right? The Gerus in question, and then Bakusis, and also Bakusis, they were feared of being killed. Right. Also, they also questionable lineage, and there is lavim associated. So even though it says that they have to be his, as the guy who violates the girl pays the father and has to take her as a wife. So even though that there might be a lav associated with him taking these three women, right, any one of these as a wife, nevertheless, there's a kanas. And Habal Giaris Vashmuel Vashivcha Shanitav Shizgara Vashinishtachruru versus Meberas Shalosh Shonim Yednachad. Also, who else gets a kanas? Somebody who converted or was held captive and redeemed, or she was a shivcha and freed before the age of 3. Now we assume that all these people normally they're not basulas, and one of the issue the qualifications is that the girl the nara has to be a basula. So even though these are assumed not to be basulas, a normal woman, right, who converts at the age of 25 is assumed not to be a basula. However, if it's before the age of 3, like we discussed earlier, since the basulim would grow back before the age of 3, so therefore they are technically a basula because whatever change they had, whether converted, freed, or redeemed, right, a ransom before the age of 3. Therefore, they are halachically considered to be basulas. And furthermore, haba alachai, so one has relations with his own sister. Now, all these we're going to list as a chayiv kares. So even that now, as opposed to a chiyuve Mrs. Bezdin, right? Because we have a concept called kinlei b'drav that one normally, if one is obligated for 2 different punishments, right, he only gets the severe, right, the more severe punishment. So if there's 2 punishments associated with, let's say, a financial penalty of 50 shekalim and a death penalty, so you get the death penalty and you don't got to pay. However, since these don't carry death penalties in court, rather they carry only a kares, quote unquote, only a kares, right? Therefore. So nevertheless, they also qualify for paying kanas. So these are all cases about achos aviv, achos imo, or his father's sister, or his mother's sister, achos ishto, or his wife's sister, achiv, and his brother's wife. Now, how is that possible if she's a basula? So it must be that he was. It was during the time of Right? Rashi says, "Sheniskashalo liachi v'girsha shein la misa elakaris." Right? She was. We can't be talking about Eishes Ish because Eishes Ish is Chayv Mises Beisted, and we also can't be talking about that she was fully married because then she wouldn't be a basula. Actually, right? So she would be a baula. So therefore, Rashi paints this as a scenario of where she was once upon a time miskadeshes to his brother, then was divorced. Al Eishes Achi, Val Eishes Achi Aviv. And his father's brother's wife, Vial Nida, and also Nida, right? Also Chayv Kares, Yesh them Kanas, Avi Shem Kares, Ein Bem Mrs. Basin. They're all Chayv because all these carry Kanas, and there is no Mrs. Basin. Fine, that was our mission. Zuk the Gemara. So the Gemara says, Hani Naros Psula Isla Kanas Ksherslo. But our mission says these are the Naros that get Kanas, and it lists all these cases of, not normal cases. So what? A regular girl, right? Like a Bas Yisrael, you violate her, there's no Kanas. So the word says, no, Hakikamar, Elo Naros Psulois Sheish Lam Kanas. These are the Naros, even though they're Psulois, there is a Kanas. Habal Mazeres, Val Nasina, Val Kusis, right in there, and then it goes on to list the cases of Mamzeres, Nasina, and Kusis. Now, Nara in Katana Lo. So says the Gemara, Dafka a Nara, Dafka a girl from between the ages of 12 and 12 and a half. However, a Katana, some to the age of under 12, no. There would not be a kanas. So Mantana. So who was the author? This Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda, Rav, Rabbi Meir. It's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. The Tanya and the Bryce. Katana mibas yom echad the ash tevi shtei saras. A girl from the age of basically one, right? One day when she's born until she reaches 2 saras, which is the age of 12. Yesh la mecher. The father has the ability to sell her off as a maidservant, right? As an Amibriya, right? He could sell her off to somebody else, right? And then she either goes free or whatever, at that point, either after 6 years, when she turns 12, or for her owner marries her or his son marries her, right? So, but nevertheless, he has the ability to sell her. So, says, however, there is no knas. In other words, from the age of 1 or 0 to 12, the father can sell her, but if she is violated, right, separately, if she's violated, he never sold her, if she's violated, there is no kanas. And then once from the age of 12 until the age of 12 and a half, yesh la kanas, la mecher, right? Tivrei mer, she has a kanas, then there is a kanas, but there is no mecher. Shahayara mer, kol makom sheish mecher, and kanas, kol makom sheish kanas, ein mecher, right? In other words, if the father is able to sell her, then he would not get at that age. He would not get a penalty. He would not get a fee if she was violated, and vice versa. If she's in the age of where she would be paid, right, a nara, then he wouldn't be able to go ahead and sell her. That is the opinion of Meir, which matches our Mishnah, because our Mishnah seems to say, or our Mishnah does say, between the age of 12 and a half, that is where the kanas applies. That's part of Meir. Katana mibash shana v'yamechad. No, a katana from the age of 3 and a day, ad she's gaber until 12 and a half. Yesh la kanas. Then she has a kanas. In other words, not from 12 to 12 and a half, according to Chanan, rather from 3 to 12 and a half. So Gemara asks, kanas in mecher lo? What he only gets a kanas, but no mecher. So Gemara answers, no. Ema af kanas b'makom mecher. It says even though the mechira might go out at the age of 12, however, there's also kanas. So in other words, there's both a kanas and a naf according to Chamim. Those can both be at the same age. Mm-hmm. Fine. Now, the top line of Chav Testament Beis. Why are these girls subject to a kanas in this case? Ikri kan. Don't you say v'lo se'eli isha? Right? The pasuk says, right? V'nasan isha sheichei bima le'avia nara v'chamishim kesef v'lo se'eli isha. Right? And then he has to marry her. So how could he marry these people? Right? Isha rilo has to be a woman who's fit for him. So a woman who's a mamzeres, right? Or his sister, right? They're not fit for him. So how could you say that the knas applies if he can't take her as a wife? So Amar Reish Lakish, so says Reish Lakish, Nara, ha Nara, right? So it says the word Nara, right? Is the pasuk that I just read, right? And then the other pasuk says Kimatza ish Nara, right? So it says nara and it says hanara, right? So when oftentimes with the extra hey, right, we actually can learn basically it's like it's written a third time. So it says the word nara 3 times, twice, and then like it says 2 times, and one of the times with the hey, so we can learn it actually a third time, right? So right, so since it says the word 3 times, right, we actually just peek into Rashi real quick, right? Third line of Rashi, nara hanara. So the honest ksiv kimatz ish nara v'sula v'chulei, and it says after that ksiv basri, it says later on, it says v'nasa ne'ish hasheichid ima la'avi hanara v'darshinon nara yisera, right? So it said there's extra nara, and also the hey yisera, there's extra hey. The hanara, the matzah l'nichtav v'nasa le'aviyah. You just say to her father. Why'd you say hanara again? So 2-3 times. So therefore, it says the word nara 3 times. Chalagufe. So one is to teach you that a nara is subject. She's the one who there is a knas. The chalis suyi chayv lavin, and one to go ahead and include also a case of chayv lavin. The chad la suye chayv krisus, and the other one is to include the case of chayv krisus. That even if the girl would be subject to kares, if he would go ahead and when he violates her, nevertheless there also applies a knas. So that was Reish Lakish. Papa Amar, it says no. Look at the case of Mefata. Mefata is basically a case of seduction, where one goes ahead and has basically relations with the girl of a similar age, but it wasn't considered to be a case of onus when he physically violated her. Mefata seems to be like there was no physical violation. So Papa Amar, Basula, Basulois, Habsulois, right? Look at Rashi again, right? It says the word 3 times. What do you mean? Mefata ksiv v'chifata ish basula. Right, that's the one puzzle. When a man seduces a basula, right, a virgin, v'kroi achrina, masrei. Another puzzle after it says kesav yishko kamohar habasulois, right? Umasnichlev kamar basulois, right? It could have said, right? It says habasulois. It says hatlas darshin and hey yasera. So therefore we darshan the extra hey. Basulas the matzanichlev kamohar lishta. You could have just said kamohar, right? The price. Why'd you say mar habasulois? So once again, we darshan basulos habsulos. So this is what our Papa says. Chad the Gufe want to teach you that in case of Mefata, she has to be a basula. The chalas, the other ones, even if there was a chavi lav, he has to take her as a wife. So that's the case of chavi lavin. Or even in the case of chavi lavin, you have to go ahead and do it. But chalasuye chavi krisis. Another case of chavi krisis. So each of them, Reish Lakish and Rav Papa, each brought Reish Lakish brought nara 3 times, and Rav Papa brought basulos 3 times. Now, for Rav Papa, my time like Reish Lakish, Rav Papa, why did you learn from the word basulos and not learn from the word naros? It says no. How we boy like Abaye? He needed Abaye's drasha, which we're going to have to remember in 1 minute. Damar Abaye, Bala Umesa. If he violates her and then she dies. Pater, he's pater from Tashlum and their wife. Shnamar, the pasuk says, "V'nason lavi hanara." He gives it to the father of the nara. The yavi nara below yavi mesa. Right? It has to be the father of the live nara, and not one who's dead. So that's what by. So since he couldn't darshan one of the naras from there, therefore he learned from the sulas. Reish Lakish, my time like Rav Papa. Reish Lakish writes in Rav Papa. Why did you learn from the sulas? Habsulas, right? How we violate Xer Shava? Needed for Xer Shava. Did Tanya with an Abraisa, the pasuk says, Kesef Yishkol Kamara Basulas. It says over there, right? Look in Rashi again, right? In brother Xer Shava Basula. By it says over there, the Chsiv Gabi Mefata. It says by Mefata. The Xer Shava. It says the word Basula, right? By Mefata needs it for Xer Shava. It says Basula Xer Shava. Ma Kesef Ba'ines Kamishim. So it only says the word. Right, it says the word chamishim kesef. It doesn't mention any shkalim. It says chamishim kesef by case of onus. So it says ma kesef by onus chamishim. But mefata it only says he has to give him shkalim. It doesn't say how much. So af mefata chamishim. So too mefata has to be chamishim. Ma mefata shkalim. The chsiv be yishkol. Af chamishim shel onus shkalim kamar. Right. So therefore by onus. By the case of violating, by the case of rape, right? So over there, it only mentions chamishim. In the case of mefata, seduction, it mentions shkalim. So therefore, the Xer Shava, both of them have the word basulo. It also says the word basula by onus, right? So therefore, we use it as a Xer Shava. So therefore, he didn't want to use the word basula to darshan there because we use that for Gzer Shava according for the Gzer Shava. So back in the Gemara, the Tani Kesav Yishkol Gemara Basulas, Shezek Gemara Basulas, Umar Basulas Kazek. Reish Lakish, Nami mi boy like the Abaye, Vra Papa Nami boy like Gzer Shava. Okay, so Reish Lakish had a valid point and Abaye had a valid point. We still need Basulas for the Gzer Shava, and we need the word Hanara for Abaye, who learns that the girl has to still be alive. So Ella, rather, how do we know that these girls, even though the Chavi Lavin and Chavi Krisis have a knas, Ella Shisa Kroik Siva? It says 6 extra words: Nara, Nara, Hanara, Basula, Basula is Ha Basula. So we combine them all together. Trey, the Gufayda, of the 6, 2 of them we need each need for the context, right? We need to learn Nara in the case of Ones, right? That's 1, and we need Basulas in the case of. She has to be Basula in the case of Mafata, and Chada Abaye. Then we need Abaye's drasha that she has to still be alive. B'Chada Gzer Shava, and then we need 1 for the Gzer Shava. That's 4 in order to teach us that each case is Chamishi Shtalim and Yisrael Trey. Therefore, we have 2 left over. 4 out of the 6 we used up, so 2 are left over. Chada Suyi Chavi Lav and B'Chada Suyi Chavi Krisis. So 1 to include even a girl who, if you would marry her, is a Chavi Lav, and the other is to include a girl who would be Chavi Krisis. Fine. Ulafuke Mahaitana. And our Mishnah actually excludes this Tana. The Tanya, so it was the Tana who taught this Brisa, 2 shitas. It says, V'lo yisiyah li'isha, the pasuk later on says, he violates her, he has to take her as a wife. So, the Shimon Timani Aimer, Isha sheyesh b'havya. This only applies to a woman, right, who he can have kedushin with. And Shimon Menasya Aimer, Isha hari l'kaima, a woman that he is fit to stay with. So in our cases, right, some of the women that if he tries to go ahead and marry his sister, there is no kesef kedushin, right? There is no kedushin. It's not chal. It doesn't work, right? I can't marry a tree. I also can't marry my sister. The kedushin, because it's an isser kares, it's not chal. Also, that was Shimon Tamani. Rabbi Shimon Ben Aska says any woman who you can't remain with, even though the kedushin might work, nevertheless. It does, right? It knows you can't stay with her. So since I can't stay with her, she shall remain with you a wife. If I'm not allowed to remain with her, then there shouldn't be a kanas. So according to those 2 opinions, they would not agree with our Mishnah. And by the way, what's the difference between Shimon Timani and Shimon Ben Asya? What's the difference between when their kedushin is in chal versus I can't remain married to her? So Mamzeres and Nesina Kibrayim. The difference is the case of Mamzeres and Nesina, where there's a lot. According to the opinion, says, in other words, there's a knas only if the kedushin is chal. So kedushin is chal with the mamzeres. You have to divorce her, but it's still chal. It still does work. It still is effective. And laman demarui lekaima. But according to the opinion, it's really lekaima. That she is that he's allowed to stay with her. He's not allowed to stay with her because she's a mamzeres. He has to divorce her. Now, Rabbi Kiva, and according to Rabbi Kiva, right, who holds that even in a case of his Isser Lav, such as I want to go ahead and marry a mamzeres, then the kedushin doesn't work. It's like I gave, I tried to marry a tree, doesn't work. So too, if I try to marry a mamzeres, it doesn't work. So my benai, there was a difference between Rabbi Shimon Timani and Shimon Ben Asya. So Kebenayu al Mara leKohen Gadol Rabbi Simai. The difference is al Mara leKohen Gadol. Now Kohen Gadol, right? He's special halachas by him that he cannot marry a widow. So according to Rabbi Simai, the way Rabbi Simai understands the Tanya Rabbi Simai Omer, min hakol oiser Rabbi Kiva mamzer. All cases of lavin, anytime a person marries someone's a lav, their children become a mamzer. All right, and even though it's only an isser lav, chutz me almana lekohen gadol, except for almana kohen gadol. That's a special lav that does not create mamzeres. If it doesn't create mamzeres, that means the kedushin would be chal. And why is it different? According to Rabbi Simai, Shari Amar Torah, lo yikach v'lo yichal. It says he should not take her and should not profane. Right? Chilulun ho'isa. So the pasuk specifically says there about the kohen gadol. What does it come teach you? It means if he does take an almana, he only makes a chalo, right? The child is not a mamzer, the child is only a chalo, right? So therefore, even according to Rabbi Kiva, in this case, it would be chal. However, let's go ahead and argue Akiva ben Yosef. Now, which is Rabbi Akiva? So, how does he understand Rabbi Akiva? Who says that if there is no permitted, right? If the bia is not permitted, then the child is a mamzer. In other words, even in the case of Kohen Gadol to Amana, according to Rabbi Akiva, right, is a mamzer. My benayu. Then what's the difference? Seiki benayu. The nafkamina is chayve ase mitzri ve'edan. So the chayve ase is now the Torah says that one cannot go ahead. It says take a mitzri and a daimi of a third generation. You can take them as your wives. So we learned from there that you could take the third generation as your wife, but you can't take first or second. So that is called the chayve ase. It's not a lav, right? It's not something that the Torah says thou shalt not do, right? Thou shalt not marry mamzeres, right? Or in the scene. Rather, it says that Dor Shlishi, and therefore it's a chayve ase. So in this case, since right, so according to Rabbi Akiva, he would hold that the kedushin is chal with a mitzri adaimi, right, first or second generation. However, one would not be allowed to stay with them. So that would be a nafkamina, according to Yeshua, between Shimon Timani and Rabbi Shimon ben Asya. So, however, this comment of Rabbi Yeshuvav, right, when he argued basically with the understanding of Amana Kohen Gadol Lefi Rabbi Akiva, so the Gemara just points out, Rabbi Yeshuvav ilafuki mitama de Rabbi Simai kasi shapir. So the way we just explained it works out very well. In other words, if Rabbi Yeshuvav is only coming to argue as to Rabbi Simai's understanding of Rabbi Akiva, in other words, he's just saying that no, Kohen Gadol and Almana is no different than any other lav. It's the same. Don't tell me Chilulin. It's not the judge of Chilulin because he holds any Bibi Yisrael, which is not permitted, is usher. So now, if he's just arguing Rabbi Akiva's understanding of Almana Kohen Gadol, then we just had a nafkamina of Chavi Ase of a Mitzri Adaimi. Eli Tamid and Ashikamar. But rather, if he's coming to say not a response to Rabbi Simai, right? Rather, he's just saying his own. If the bia is not mutter, then the vlad is a mamzer. In other words, even chayve ase, right? So then, kol shein lo bibi Yisrael, havlad mamzer, ve'afilu chayve ase, and even a chayve ase. So if that's the case, what would be the nafkamina between the kedushin is in chal, right? Or versus you're not allowed to stay with her because if you're not allowed to have the bia, then the vlad will be a mamzer, and then therefore the kedusha is not chal. So where is the case of where the kedusha is chal, but you're not allowed to remain with the woman? So you can the Kohen Gadol. Now the Torah says a Kohen Gadol should go ahead and take a basula. So we learn from there, basically a chayve ase, that the Kohen Gadol has to go ahead and take somebody who is a basula. So it's a chayve ase, right? So if he takes a bu'ula, right? So which is the opposite of taking a basula. So he didn't violate a lois asentar. Torah doesn't say don't take a bu'ula. It says take a basula. So the Gemara said obvious question. My shna the havile ase, right? My shna. So why is this different? You just said, you can't say mitzri and adomi because that's a chavi ase. So you said, okay, fine. The nafkamina is the chavi ase bu'ula kohen gadol. I'm just going to go more lines down. Right? So what's the difference? Since it's not Shavah B'Kol, it doesn't apply to everybody. It only applies to the Kohen Gadol. So therefore, in that case, we would say that the Kedushin is Chal in that case. But in case of Mitzvah and Dug, which applies to all Yisrael, therefore that Kedushin not be Chal. So therefore, that would be the nafkamina between Shimon Timani and Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya. And Amar Rav Chizda, HaKol Maidin B'Bala Nida, Shemashalim Kanas. Everyone agrees that one is balanida, despite the fact that carries a kares. Everyone agrees in that case. According to the opinion we said earlier, in other words, that the kedushin is chal hanami yesh bavya. The halach is that if a man marries a woman who's a nida, right? We don't say it's like he married his sister, and the kedushin is since it's a kares, the kedushin is not chal. Rather, the Gemara learns out, right, in other places, that the kedushin does work if the woman is a nida. And Lamada Relikaima, and according to Binu says, is he allowed to stay with her? Another Relikaima, a man is allowed to stay married to a woman who's a nida. So therefore, according to both of those, the Knas, Shimon Timani and Shimon ben Asya, the Knas would apply to a nida.
You have to get the
What was that? Yeah. Nechunya ben Hikna actually to exclude also our Mishnah excluded Rabbi Yechunya and Hikna Titania. Nechunya ben Hikna Haya Oisa Es Yom Kippurim Kishabbos. He learns out that Yom Kippur is like Shabbos, l'tashlim, when it comes to payments. Now we know a person does as Machal Shabbos and damages something simultaneously. So he said, keep later the Rabbi Minei, right? That since a person is Chayav Mises Beis Din for Shabbos, right? If he's warned not to do something, he does it anyways. He burns someone's field, or he does something which one would be Chayav for. So since he's Chayav B'nafsho, he's part of for Tashlumin. So too, Mas Shabbos Mechayiv B'nafsho part of Tashlumin, just like Shabbos. When it's Chayav B'nafsho part of Tashlumin, Af Yom Kippurim. So too Yom Kippur Mischayiv B'nafsho, right? He's Chayav Kores uPater Min Tashlumin. He's part of the Tashlumin. So according to Rabbi Nechunya ben Hikna, he learns that if one is Chayav Kores at the same time of having to pay a penalty, he doesn't pay the penalty. And our Mishnah says that despite the fact that he violated a girl and his chayav, let's say his sister, and he's chayav kares for that, he's still chayav to pay. So our Mishnah says you can be chayav kares and also be chayav the payment is not like Rabbi Nechunya ben Hikna, because he holds that if you're chayav for kares, like you are on Yom Kippurim, you're pater from paying any damages. And so that's what he learns out from Shabbos. He says Yom Kippur is like Shabbos. And where does he know that? My time Rabbi Nechunya ben Hikna. Some Rabbaye, Namar Asan b'dei Adam. It says the word Asan b'dei Adam. A man is fighting with somebody else, and he ends up right, and he knocks the woman instead, and the fetus dies, but he doesn't kill anybody else. He says there is no Asan, right? Mm-hmm. Then he has to go ahead and pay for the fetus. Sounds like if there was an Asan, if he was Chayiv Misa for killing somebody, he would be pater. So we see that if you're chayiv b'nafsho, if you're chayiv mises based in, you're pater from tashlumin. The nemar asam b'dei shemayim. Also has the word asam b'dei shemayim. Where is that? By Yaakov Avinu, right? When Yaakov says, right, don't take Binyamin, right? Because the Korah asam b'derech, and an asan will happen to him b'derech. So he uses the same word asan. Ma asan remember they adam pater min tashlumin. Just like that, which we said that if he went ahead and did an asan when he was fighting with his friend, then he killed somebody and he also killed the fetus, right? Or it wasn't really his friend he was fighting with. Or ma asan remember they adam pater min tashlumin. Asan remember they shemayim. So too asan they shemayim, right? Which he's warned for his pater min tashlumin. So real quick. Maskell, we're not going to turn the page, don't worry. So Maskell Ravad, Rav Mai the call Maskell who Yaakov Benel Alsinin Pachim, the B'dei Shemayim, you know. Who said the Asan was only referring to things B'dei Shemayim, such as, right, being too cold or being too hot? Those are B'dei Shemayim. Who says he was only warning them, don't go on the road, right, with Binyamin, because perhaps B'dei Shemayim is going to come and strike him down, right? It's gonna be, the travels are going to be too hot or too cold, he's going to die that way. The Ganavi, the Adam, right? Maybe he said, don't take him down because he'd be attacked by robbers or lions, right? Which is the Adam. Mara says, also Yaakov, right? Yaakov, I'll call Mili Azir, right? Says that what Yaakov only warned them about, be careful for lions and thugs. No, he warned about everything, even us B'dei Shemayim. So therefore, the Gzer Sheva does stand. That Asan is referring to B'dei Shemayim, and therefore, just like an Asan B'dei Adam is pater, right? If you're chayiv b'nafsho, you're pater from tashlumin. So to Asan B'dei Shemayim, you are pater from as kares, you're also pater from tashlumin, according to Rabbi Nechunya ben Hikna. And we will stop here for the next video. I could turn the page, but I felt bad. All right.